Hey, it's been 10 plus years and there's no pandemic or anything, but I would like to say we kind of put the cold in cold opening. So I'm going to walk over here, turn the air down to 56, get it nice and chilly in here, because up next, it's the EduTech Guys.
You're listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com. Hello and welcome to the EduTech Guys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
Yeah, hey, thank you so much for tuning in, turning on, downloading, grabbing the ones and zeros.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
We've been gone a bit.
Yeah.
Life changes. It moves. It comes at you really fast. Sometimes you got to stop and just, sorry, a little Ferris wheel in there.
You might just miss it. And I feel like we've been missing it.
Yeah, don't forget, check us out on the web. Just go to edutechguys.com. Everything that points to us, touches us, side swipes us, it's right there. You can find it on the website. But hey, it's we'll get into this. It'll be a quick episode today. We're actually at lunch, and so
once again doing another lunchtime episode.
Yeah, if you hear a little '80s music in the back, sorry about that. That's just a little music. You might
listen. We never apologize for 80s music.
That's right. It is the foundation of the current America.
It is. That's right.
Yeah, everything that's happening right now in America, you can trace back to an 80s tune. Right. 50 years ago, Prince told us this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, the flock of seagulls.
Oh,
I ran.
Made me cough. I hacked up a lung on that one. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Well, and then never mind.
Never mind. We'll just move right along.
We're moving right along. Hey, so we'll just jump right into it. We're always looking at stuff. Education's changed, and in fact, a lot of our lives are changing again. We're both kind of almost heading back into education and doing some stuff that way. And but I've been noticing, having traveling to a lot of schools, been thinking about the modern administrator, and the experience gap we're getting there. To me, that's always been a problem, and I'm not nay-naying administrators, but at the same time, if you've only taught in the classroom 4 years, you get your master's, you get your administrative certificate, you start working on your doctorate, and then you're a superintendent. I'm sorry,
it definitely makes it, from my perspective anyway, it makes it a little hard for the buy-in, frankly, from whoever you're supervising, whether you're at the principal level or superintendent level. I don't know. To me, it would be hard to get buy-in from someone who is that, frankly, green.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a shortage. And it's funny, they say there's an administrative shortage out there, but I really don't see it. But maybe that shortage is in reference to those with actual experience. Maybe that's what they mean by a shortage, because, we've seen it happen. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of people go up for superintendent jobs and just get nailed.
Yeah.
And it's all about, well, we're going to go with this 68-year-old who's been doing it for 45 years.
Sure.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's not modern. Let's get somebody in there that's, listens to the music at least in the last 4 decades, something along that line.
Well, and I don't envy, boards of education at all when it comes to this kind of stuff, because you want an administrator who understands the challenges that students face today versus the challenges that we had when we were in school back in the, 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And even honestly, even I look back at my own kids, that were in school, late 90s, 2000, early 2000s. Everything is just the way students are. And part of it, I think, is it's not just the way students are, but the things that they have exposure to now that we didn't have exposure to, and the ways that they have learned and how they adapt to things, I think is much different than the way we used to do things. And I think in order for an administrator to be able to take that on, I don't know. Like I said, I don't envy the boards of education who are looking to hire folks that can kind of meet those. Not to mention the demands of the people you're going to be supervising,
right.
teachers and staff members and consultants and, all of the therapists and all of the pieces and parts that go into, providing that education to students has changed so much.
Well, it's funny. I think it's really interesting is that, there's that talk that it went from instructional leader to operational manager, but really it's kind of both, especially for smaller schools.
Yeah.
There's the kicker. And if you've not done your time in IEP meetings, if you've not done your time of the February slump, if you haven't handled, snow days, if you haven't, or you're dealing with, like I said, you've been in an IEP meeting, you've been in a curriculum meeting, but then you got to turn around and figure out how to pass a millage and get a 200-year-old school building, rebuilt.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a lot to put on someone.
It is.
And I think that when you look at modern education in the post, public school realm, I don't think they're covering that.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I think I sent you in our buddy chat, I sent you guys a little thing yesterday that said, how do I do my taxes? Here, put this recorder in your mouth.
Yes.
Well, how do I get a job? No, just blow in it, move your fingers. Okay, great. Well, how do I do this? And go, listen, you've just played hot cross buns. That's pretty much what we're kind of dealing with at this point. And the same thing, I think that's what's happening in the post-secondary level.
Yeah.
I think when they're training people, they're going through the same motions they went through 3 decades ago. And they've modified it because now we test every 2 weeks and, crap like that.
Yeah.
But they're coming out of these programs with just this basic knowledge of how to be a manager. Like, make sure the shelves are stocked and you turn the lights off at night and lock the door.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's, there are all these different traps that unfortunately, it's very easy for administrators to fall into, the compliance trap. But good gravy. That's everywhere. You're trying to get the kids educated, but at the same time, you have to comply with, local regulations and the state regulations and the national regulations. Oh, and by the way, this particular grant that you got has these particular things you have to comply with. And so I think part of that is they get bogged down in making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and we tend to forget about the educating part of that, and, by the same token, you got, administrators who are also dealing with just flat out teacher retention. So many teachers are getting burned out and wanting to leave. And I think that's part of going back to the original topic of the conversation about, finding modern administrators. I think that's hard in terms of anybody with longevity, because the people with longevity are like, listen, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't take this anymore. This is not what I got into teaching to do.
Right.
But they've stuck it out. They've, been doing it. And some of them just get to that breaking point and go, nah, I've had it. I definitely don't want an administrator position. I kind of think of my wife in those terms. She's not burned out by any stretch. She is more passionate about teaching and her students now than I think she's ever been, which is amazing to me because she always has been. But one of the things that always comes up is her administrators want her to get her administrative certification and become an administrator. And she said, why?
Right.
Why would I ever want to do that when she said, I like to live in my 4 walls, basically. I like my classroom. I love being one-on-one with my students. This is where I want to be. If I were administrator, I'd be dealing with all this other junk that you guys have to deal with that I don't have to deal with.
It's funny you say that because, knowing that about your wife and knowing about teachers like that, the reason they never go into administration is because they have so much to finish and complete at the level they're at.
Yeah.
They're not wowed or starry-eyed about the idea that, I'm just going to move up and it's going to get better.
Right.
Because it's not. It's just now, instead of me not achieving what I want to achieve in the classroom, I've got to make sure everyone achieves what they're trying to achieve in the classroom. And wait, that's because you're putting a couple of more zeros at the end does not make it a better deal.
Right.
And that's, but back to, so you've been a high school football coach your entire 8 years career, 15-year career. How does that give you the understanding to understand early childhood?
Right.
It's that old saying that, how can you lead a revolution if you've never been in the trenches?
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of, to bring it up.
Yes.
But, I get it. I've seen a lot of stuff. I was just reading an article on ageism, and it was about a lady. She was 58, and she had been working corporate, and she had been on track, and they hired a 25-year-old right out of graduate school and then said, and you need to train them. And she said, no.
Yeah.
But, she said, and then I was brought into HR and told I wasn't a team player.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was shifted to different things, and I was being forced out because, and now what's interesting is that you've got to see a teacher in a 3rd grade classroom or a 6th grade English classroom realizing that this is going on when, beep, beep, we drive in our new convertible Lexus because we got 2 more zeros and we're real pretty and our nails are done. And we come in and we're the new principal and we're going to pretty up everything and put, pretty stuff on the walls and decorate the windows. And we're going to have, things on the floor that direct all the kids where to go. And we're going to have Gene Fridays and we're going to have Cupcake Tuesdays. And it's like, listen, I've been here 8 years and we're still reading at a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
I got other things to worry about. And then unfortunately, what we're seeing is that rapid turnaround, that overturn of those kind of administrators. And unfortunately, it's kind of cookie cutter. We're getting the same thing in that we just got rid of.
Yeah.
And that's what a district has to look at. It has to look at itself and realize it's just like I said to you guys not very long ago. When I look introspectively at what went wrong with whatever, inevitably it was me.
Mm.
Now I do agree with one of my new things is I won't know how it's going to turn out until I make the decision.
Sure.
I won't know if it's going to be good or bad until I make the decision.
Right.
And we always forget about that. We always try to find the answer before we actually make the decision.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to roll a 7 or am I going to roll snake eyes? Well, until you throw the dice, you're not going to know.
Right.
You can look at all the percentages in the world and get yourself all hyped up. Hey, this is going to pass. This is going to happen. We're going to get the new stadium. We're going to get a new library. Well, until you make that decision to put your foot in the door, then you'll find out if you can keep it open. And I think that's a really big deal. But
and so all that to say that if you are in the position, I feel like we've really beat administrator positions to death. Like you don't ever want to be an administrator.
Well, between the two of us, we had about 70 years of dealing with administrators at every level.
That's true. However, having said that, on the upside, if you are a district looking for a more modern administrator, or more specifically, if you're someone and we haven't absolutely killed your spirit in becoming an administrator, that was not the intention of this.
Really, the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah, they really do.
Snicker.
Yeah. No, really, just sign right here. But there are, if you're interested, in addition to the book work that they make you do, it seems to me that there are a couple of things, though, that you can really think about in terms of how to approach becoming a quote modern administrator, and that things like we have like prioritizing emotional intelligence, and in plain English, have some empathy. Learn that empathy, understand where the people that you're in charge of, understand where they're coming from, understand what their needs are, and see what you can do realistically to meet some of those needs and to, frankly, take some of the burden off of their shoulders. And then you have things like, again, we talked about, how you get bogged down in compliance, but never forget the pedagogy. Never forget what it takes to understand what's going on in education.
Yeah.
Keep your foot in the door of education research. Keep looking. And especially nowadays, everything's available on the web. So there are so many resources that you can either access or have access to where you can keep up with what's happening.
Well, how many times I've said also, there's that whole thing about leading. And before you're ever a principal, start becoming, and how many teachers do we know in the classroom, teachers that aren't administrators, that are leaders in their field?
Right.
Because when we've preached it for, 2 decades.
Yes.
Publish yourself. That's what the internet's for.
Yep.
Substack is now, that's the hot trend topic. Fire one up, write your opinion. That shows a school district who you are inside. Also, that empathy. It's going to show your writing style. It's going to show how you handle topics, how you handle human beings. But, get yourself out there, NASSP, any of your professional groups, become a member before you're actually an administrator. Find out what they're doing. I think one of the cool ones is diversifying your grades, your grade levels.
Oh yeah.
I mean, go ahead and, bounce around. We knew a young man who was in the district we worked in, and everyone gave him a hard time because he was changing grade levels and he was changing core teaching subjects that he was in. I mean, I think he did art, he did math, and he did all kinds of stuff. Well, he's moved on and he's actually moving up into a global, national, prominence as an educator.
Right.
And, joke's on you, whoops, we didn't see that one coming, did we?
Yeah.
But, I think you're right. I mean, and then there's always, don't shadow the cool people. Shadow the people, in your district, who they are. Even if you've only been there a year or two in your building, who's really getting it done. And it might be that instructional facilitator. It might be that lead teacher.
Yeah.
It might be the dyslexia coordinator. Find those people, figure out how they do what they're doing and shadowing them a little bit. Get yourself a little extra side credit,
Well, and I have to say, when we were both working for the district that we used to work for, I have to say that's one of the things that I thoroughly enjoyed about, and I don't know, I have no idea if he still does it or not, but the superintendent would each semester take over a classroom. So here's the superintendent, and he would, and actually it wasn't even just a classroom. He would take over another role. So sure, one time he was a teacher, another time he was a paraprofessional. I think one time he did something to do with the maintenance crew or something along those lines. So he put himself in those roles to help better understand what it means to be in those roles and build that empathy. And that ultimately ended up into a shift in some of those non-certified positions getting, either a bonus or a pay increase because he now had that, first term experience doing it and had a much better understanding that he could then take to the board and say, you have no idea what these people are doing in terms of what the day-to-day is, and we're not paying them enough. They're not being rewarded enough for the job they do. And ultimately, in this particular case, the board agreed, and I think that made a huge difference. Had he just gone to the board without any of that experience, I don't know that it would have laid the same way. And honestly, I don't even know that he would have gone to the board had he not got his feet wet in it. So I would say that as an administrator, you want to be a modern administrator, put yourself in other shoes at levels that you've not been to, that you haven't done.
I like the way you helped us wrap this up. You put it, I mean, that's a great ending. And you're right. I mean, that is it. It's perspective.
Yeah. Exactly.
One of our favorite words.
It is.
From Ratatouille. If you hadn't watched that film, that is one of the most excellent films out there. You can learn a lot about life from Ratatouille. One of them is don't keep your whole clan in the attic in case the old lady has a shotgun. That's a whole other story. But
don't keep your rats in the freezer.
Don't keep your rats in the freezer. But it is all about perspective.
It is.
The other thing is that don't forget what the view is, just like you just said, from the desk.
Yep.
That's a really big deal. Don't forget what it's like from everyone else's eyes. And that rolls in what you talked about, empathy. It talks about perspective from someone else's perspective. It's a really big deal. Like David said, I hope we didn't nay administrators enough to, but I think that everything in public education and the United States is going through it in this current time, especially with vouchers and private schools and charter schools. And there's going to be so many beautiful apples dangled out in front of you to leave public education and maybe go to a charter school or go to a private school or, homeschool your own children or whatever you think you're going to do. I think that the public school system in the United States is a testament to what changes we made in education that were adopted by other countries and the world.
Yeah.
And maybe that some of them might have improved on it a little bit, or maybe they haven't. They just modified it. But I believe that, keep your sights and, try to do the right thing.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
and if it's in your desire to do so, go out and be the best modern administrator you can be.
Or
not.
Manage a Dillard's.
That makes some good money. You can go manage a Buc-ee's. They make really good money.
Oh man, did you see what they make at Buc-ee's?
When I saw that, I was like, I'm in the wrong job.
Me too. Because I love barbecue. I mean, I'd manage a Buc-ee's. I'd be 700 pounds. My diabetes would be the least of my worries.
I couldn't have that job.
You cut me and I would bleed barbecue sauce. So
that's right. We'd have to call it. I don't know if you remember or not. I don't know if they had it around here. Did you guys have blimpies?
I remember blimpies subs.
Yeah, I'd be a blimp.
Yeah. Hey, listen, don't forget to check us out on the web, edutechguys.com. It has everything that you need to know about us. You can get everywhere you want to go. And we even have some merch on there. So if you'd like to see our two gorgeous faces on a T-shirt looking at you back in the mirror, you can check out the merchandise on that same website.
That's right. We also have a really cool podcast log book where you can jot down your ideas for podcasting and
do it in the classroom.
Some show notes. And Yep.
Hey, thanks a million. We'll catch you next time. I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.